She thought she had me fooled, until I turned the tables. For years, I believed I had built something solid, a life worth cherishing, a devoted wife, 2 wonderful children, and a home that had taken years of dedication to afford. It wasn't perfect, but it was ours. Emily, my wife, was everything I thought I wanted: radiant, affectionate, seemingly devoted. If someone had asked me a month ago whether I trusted her, I would have said yes without hesitation. But now, I see the truth. I was living in a carefully crafted lie. It all unraveled on an evening like any other. I arrived home early, eager to surprise Emily with dinner. The kids' laughter echoed upstairs, filling the house with warmth. I loved moments like these, where life felt secure. But security is an illusion, one that can be shattered in a heartbeat. As I walked past the kitchen, I caught the sound of Emily's voice, light-hearted, almost playful, but carrying a cruel undertone. My steps slowed. She was on the phone. At first, I wasn't intentionally listening, just passing by, until I heard my name. He's so clueless, Lisa. He had no idea I was in the next room with Jason while he was downstairs playing with the kids. Everything inside me froze. My breath caught in my throat. My heart pounded violently in my chest. The walls around me suddenly felt suffocating. "I know, right?" she continued, a cruel laugh in her voice. "And the best part? He trusts me so much. He never even questions why I'm exhausted every night. Like, gee, I don't know. Maybe because I spent hours with Jason before he even got home?" She laughed, a heartless, mocking sound that twisted the knife even deeper. My stomach churned as every affectionate moment we had shared replayed in my mind, every embrace, every whispered "I love you," every lie. And then something inside me snapped. She thought she had won. She thought she was untouchable. But in that moment, she had sealed her own fate. I didn't burst into the room. I didn't scream, didn't confront her. That's exactly what she would have expected. No, I wanted her to keep believing she was in control, to feel safe in her deception. So I turned away, my mind already plotting. I needed proof. Concrete, undeniable evidence. I wasn't just going to end our marriage. I was going to make sure she lost everything she had taken for granted. That night, I played my part flawlessly. I kissed her forehead, told her I loved her. She smiled back, completely unaware that I had already buried any feelings I once had for her. The next day, I made my first move. I contacted a lawyer, a specialist in high-conflict divorces. I didn't just want to leave her. I wanted to dismantle her entire world. Then I began my silent war. I installed hidden cameras in key areas, the bedroom, the hallway, even the guest room where she had been sneaking around with Jason. I pulled our phone records, dug through every suspicious message, and made copies of everything. And then I waited for 3 weeks. I gathered enough evidence to destroy her completely. I didn't just catch her cheating. I captured every vile, humiliating detail. Recordings of her moaning Jason's name while I was downstairs with our children. Texts mocking me, calling me boring, weak, and pathetic. Bank statements proving she had spent our money on her secret rendezvous. But I wasn't done. I needed one final piece. Something so devastating that there would be no escaping the consequences. And one night, she handed it to me on a silver platter. The game was over. She thought she'd won, until I exposed everything. I had the financial records, bank statements proving she'd been spending our hard-earned money on her secret meetings with Jason. But that wasn't enough. I needed one final, irrefutable piece of evidence, something that would ensure her downfall was total. And then one night, she handed it to me without even realizing it. I told Emily I was heading out for drinks with a co-worker. Instead, I parked a few streets away, slipped the back door, and positioned myself just outside the guest room, the place I knew Jason would be waiting. Then I hit record. Every word, every disgusting comment, every cruel insult she spat about me, it was all captured. The betrayal, the mockery, the way she degraded me while indulging in her affair. Every sound, every whisper, every vile truth. This was it, the calm before the storm. The next morning, I set my plan in motion. I arranged a family dinner at her parents' house, telling Emily it was something special, She had no idea what was coming. She dressed up, glowing, acting as if nothing had changed. She even kissed me on the cheek, completely unaware that it would be the last time she ever saw me as her husband. When we arrived, I greeted her parents warmly. They were good people, and I had no intention of sparing Emily's reputation. They deserved to know exactly who their daughter really was. Once we were all seated, I stood up, took a deep breath, and pressed play. The room fell into complete silence. Emily's face turned ghostly pale as the recordings played. Her mother gasped, covering her mouth in shock. Her father's expression darkened, his eyes filled with rage and disappointment. "I'm sorry you had to hear this," I said, my voice steady, "but you needed to know the truth." Emily's hands trembled as she tried to stammer out an excuse. "This isn't what it sounds like. Please, let me explain." I cut her off, sliding the divorce papers across the table. "I already filed," I said, my tone devoid of emotion. "I'm taking full custody of the kids. I have all the proof I need to show the court you're an unfit mother. You can fight it, but I promise you I will win." Tears welled in her eyes. "Please, let's just talk about this," she pleaded. I laughed, a cold, empty sound. "Talk? You mean like how you laughed at me? How you mocked me while you were screwing Jason in the next room?" Jason, who had been silent until now, tried to sneak away. I wasn't about to let that happen. I turned to him. "Oh, and by the way, Jason, your wife already knows." His head snapped up, his face draining of color. I had sent everything, screenshots, recordings, even the bank statements, to his wife the night before. His phone buzzed violently. His hands shook as he read the messages. His face turned ashen. "You son of a," he started. "Save it." I cut him off, standing up. "You two deserve each other." The weight of the silence was suffocating. Emily sat frozen, her face streaked with tears, lips quivering as her parents stared at her in horror. Her mother was the first to break the silence. "Emily, tell me this isn't true." Emily's voice cracked as she tried to speak. "Mom, Don't even try," I interrupted. "There's no talking your way out of this." Jason frantically scrolled through his phone, his fingers shaking as he saw the messages from his wife. Proof of his own destruction. His face twisted in panic, realizing his marriage was crumbling before his eyes. Emily turned back to me, desperation in her gaze. "Please, let's just go home. We can fix this in private." I let out a bitter chuckle. "Private? Where was my privacy when you were screwing Jason while I was downstairs with our kids?" Her father, usually a reserved man, slammed his fist against the table. "I raised you better than this, Emily," he shouted. "How could you betray your family like this?" Tears streamed down her face. But I didn't care. She had laughed at me, mocked me. Now, she would taste the same humiliation she so carelessly dished out. I stood, sliding the divorce papers toward her once more. "Here's how this works," I said coldly. "You sign these papers. You give up any claims to the house. I get full custody of the kids. And if you try to fight it, I'll make sure the court hears every single recording of you sneaking around while I was the one taking care of our family." Her fate was sealed, and I didn't feel a shred of remorse. She betrayed me and lost everything. She was sobbing, her whole body trembling as she looked around for support. But there was none. Even her own mother turned away, unable to meet her eyes, ashamed of what she had done. "You want to be with Jason?" I asked, my tone like ice. "Go ahead. But just so you know, he won't be able to take care of you." Jason's head snapped up, confusion flashing across his face. "What the hell does that mean?" I smirked. "Check your bank account." His fingers fumbled over his phone, his expression shifting from confusion to sheer panic as the truth set in. You reported me?" His voice cracked with fear. I nodded, my smirk unwavering. "Absolutely. All those company funds you borrowed for your little adventures? That's called embezzlement. Buddy, I sent a full report to your employer this morning. HR should be calling you any second now." Right on cue, his phone buzzed violently in his shaking hands. He swallowed hard, his shoulders slumping as his entire world crumbled before him. Emily's wide eyes darted between us. finally understanding the full extent of what I had done. "What did you do?" she whispered, her voice barely audible. I leaned in close, my voice low and venomous. "I did what you never thought possible. I outplayed you." Her breath hitched, her entire body racked with despair. In just 5 minutes, everything she had gambled away was gone. And I wasn't finished yet. I walked out of that house without looking back. Emily didn't try to stop me. She just sat there, shattered, watching her entire life go up in flames. When I got home, I went straight to my children's room. My 2 little ones were fast asleep, their innocent faces unaware of the destruction their mother had caused. I knelt beside them, my heart aching, not for her, but for them. They didn't deserve this. And I swore I would never let them suffer for her mistakes. She begged, but I was done. The next day, Emily called me over 20 times. I ignored every single one. Her text came next. "Please, let's talk. I didn't mean for this to happen. I can change. Please don't do this." I didn't reply. She had made her choices. Now, she had to live with them. Then, the messages from mutual friends started. "Hey, man, Emily's a mess. She's begging to talk to you. Yeah, she messed up, but don't you think this is a bit much? You're really going to take everything from her." I blocked every number. I owed her nothing. A week later, my lawyer finalized everything. Emily lost everything in the divorce. No alimony, no assets, no custody. Jason was fired, leaving her jobless. Their so-called love story was already falling apart under the weight of their disgrace. But karma wasn't done yet. Her life kept falling apart. A few months later, I got a call from a friend. "Dude, you're not going to believe this. Emily got evicted. She had nowhere else to go, so she's back living with her parents." I raised an eyebrow. "Oh, yeah, and she looks terrible. She's lost a ton of weight. She's miserable." I felt nothing. No sympathy. No pity. Just peace. For months, she had laughed at me, mocked me, disrespected the family we built together. And now, every smug laugh she shared with her friends had come back to haunt her. I ended the call without another word. Emily had always thought she was smarter than me, that she could manipulate me forever. But in the end, she was just another cheater who lost everything. And I walked away with my kids, my dignity, and a future untouched by her betrayal. The best revenge? Thriving. Revenge isn't always about anger. It's about justice. Karma always catches up with those who think they're untouchable. The best revenge isn't destruction. It's success. It's living well while they watch their world fall apart. Emily risked everything for a few fleeting moments of pleasure. And in the end, she lost it all. I survived. I thrived. And I never looked back.